Alright, before we get started in the labor defaults, we're going to talk about downloading a new master file that will give you some updated labor default settings in the framing system window that sets the labor defaults. And it's kind of a good starting point for people that don't really know where to start with what numbers to put into the labor defaults window. So let's go ahead and show you where this is. If you go to our website, the gdsestimating.com, we go to download v15, and then we scroll down to where it says miscellaneous downloads, and there's a master.mdb file. Now the caveat to this is you don't want to save this file if you don't want to lose your glass table. So if you spend a lot of time adding glass to your glass table, if you spend a lot of time setting up your own labor, then I wouldn't bother doing this. So you can kind of skip ahead till we to the point where we talk about the settings themselves. But if you really haven't done much with the labor or the glass table, then I would go ahead and do this. There's a couple other things you need to do, but they're easy, like create new usernames again, and then set up your little system preferences for how big the windows are and stuff, and then also just add the vendors back to the list. But all that's pretty easy. So in Windows Explorer, I just click that master MDB link, I hit save, and I'm just going to tell it to go to the WinBid Pro folder. So you would go to your C drive and find WinBid Pro, open that, and hit save. It's going to ask you to overwrite or replace the existing one. We say yes. And if you have Firefox or something like that, it's going to save it to a download folder. So then you're going to have to copy and paste that over to the WinBid Pro folder and replace the existing master file. So once you do that, when we get into the program, you will see the guest again, and there's no other users there. So this is where you add a new username. So we just click Edit Add, we hit Add New, and your name is really all that's needed right now, since none of this other stuff is really being used at this point, but eventually it will be. So we select that new username, and we go ahead and continue on. And the next thing is, it's going to show us the vendor list, but there's only the sample vendor. So we're just going to click Add New. Your vendors are all still there, they just need to be added to the list. So you open up one of the vendor folders. Inside that, there's an MDB file that shows. So the name of the vendor with an MDB after it, that's the one you want to pick, and that's how you add it to the list. So we'll do one more so you see that again. So say US Aluminum here. There's the MDB file for them. I hit OK and it adds them to the list. So you can click any catalog to get into the program to set the labor defaults, because the defaults are for the entire program, not just for one catalog. So we get into the main screen here. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. And then we go down to labor defaults, click that. We hit frame and miscellaneous hours and rates and stuff. So this is where the first labor video talked about what these different settings are. There's something new here, and that is time per panel. So time per panel was added both to fabrication and installation, and it's just another way for you to fine-tune your labor for a job. So it's a variable setting where that amount varies on the number of panels in the elevation. So the bigger the elevation, the more labor it's going to give you. So it's a little different than a per elevation labor, because that's a one-shot throw in that number and it just adds it to the labor. So it's yet another way to kind of, like I say, fine-tune your labor and get it where you need it to be. It's not meant to replace the labor setting in the version 14 program or to mimic it, because we wanted to get away from that. So between the per joint, per elevation, per panel, and over here per cut and things, you should be able to get this labor exactly where you need it. So sometimes you might have to rethink the way you normally figure labor and apply what we have here to how you figure your labor. So you're doing some translation, but if you do that translation and you figure out you know, how much time per cut, per joint, per panel, per elevation, all that, then there's no reason why you can't get this labor to come out just where you need it to be. So remember, this is all in minutes. All these entrance times here These are all kind of standards that were set a long time ago in the 90s, and there's a lot of things that it doesn't include. So for all the things that aren't included in these times, you can either bump up the times or you can add different types of labor, like hardware time, door adjusting time for installation labor. So same thing goes for fabrication. This time doesn't include any fabrication. So if you're doing a lot of fab work on door frames and door leaves, then you're going to want to add the time in here for each of the system types. So we're looking at screw spline now. And if we scroll over, hit the arrow to the right, it goes to shear block, can stick, curtain pressure wall, butt glazed, impact, and then other. So other is just you can make up whatever times you want for whatever type of system we don't include here, and that's what your other would be. But the entrance stuff is all the same for each of these, so keep that in mind. If one of them needs different entrance times, like maybe curtain wall, you can add to that. If any of them need fabrication time thrown in for entrances, you want to add to that. And remember that down here in miscellaneous install labor, this is all a one-shot addition to an elevation. So it's not figuring anything per foot or per panel or anything like that. It's just a one-shot number that gets added to the elevation. So your caulking should be, if you're doing perimeter caulking, you can put time in it for here, or right here in the perimeter caulking area. So if, let's say we need 2 minutes per foot. So if I point to this field, it'll show me a little note that says it's applied per foot. Notice how only the pressure wall system has time for the curtain wall pressure plate. But if it's, say, a butt glaze system and you're doing face cap, then I can go ahead and add a couple minutes in here per foot, because it's going to figure it. As long as there's a number there, it's going to figure it in per foot. So the difference is it's doing the whole perimeter feet, or not perimeter feet, it's going the lineal feet for the entire elevation. So it's not just face cover time. So that's where for butt glaze, you might actually want to do the per panel and add per panel time. So if you need another 5 minutes per panel for face covers, you can easily add that. So keep that in mind for the pressure plate time. It's basically lineal feet for the entire elevation, not just horizontals and head and sill and stuff. So I think that covers it. Keep in mind that there's also this section here that applies per job. So kind of like back here where we did it miscellaneous per elevation, this is miscellaneous per job. And that should get you going.